Brought to you by Xfinity. Stay connected, protected, and entertained. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the show outstanding head coach of the Warriors. What a win last night over the Portland Trailblazers, 132 to 95. Pardon me. Steve Kerr with his coach. 36 assists, only 12 turnovers last night. You had to be thrilled with the ball movement and the way your club just destroyed the zones and the traps that Portland showed you last night.
Yeah, it was a good feel-good win for us, coming off the break and especially coming off that really tough loss to Denver last week. So it was fun just to watch the guys really play well and get into a groove and have a very satisfying night. And hopefully that's a sign of what's to come.
Was the way you defended last night, where it seemed like everybody was more aggressive, there was a lot more sort of at the Portland players. Now, granted, they're walking wounded, but were you trying to instill a greater sense of energy and urgency to get your defense recalibrated for the stretch run?
Yeah, for sure. And we've made a few adjustments to our lineup combinations and rotations the last couple games. But I think more than anything, the guys just needed a break. I think we were fried before the All-Star break, and so there was a renewed sense of energy and fresh legs, and everybody was clicking, and obviously Portland was missing Nurkic, which was a big factor in the game because they'd really been playing well. They had won 4 straight, including road wins over Memphis and Milwaukee, and so this is a team that, as they showed in the first quarter, they've been playing with confidence and playing well, but losing Nurkic was a big factor for them, and we were able to kind of wear them down, as shorthanded as they were.
To that end, Coach, at the defensive end, what would you say pleased you the most about the defensive effort and the results, and what, if not troubled you, maybe annoyed you the most about the slow start at that end for your club?
Well, the transition defense was a problem early. They were really playing fast and coming downhill at us. And then once we took care of that, we were able to take control of the game. And I think the guys were locked in. The rotations were good. We weren't, for the most part, we weren't allowing back cutters and, giving up offensive rebounds. We took away the easy stuff. And that's what we always talk about, every night. That's what the most important thing is in the NBA is can you take away the fast break layups, the back cut layups, the free throws on ill-advised fouls. There's always I always say there's like 20 points or so that are hanging in the balance of every NBA game. And it's, it's up to you as a team if you can deny those from happening or not. The other 90 points are just going to happen regardless because NBA players are so skilled, they're going to score. So you got to take care of the little stuff, and I thought we did that last night.
What was the biggest benefit to being able to play your bench 130 minutes and your starters only 110? What was the thing or things you learned most about your team last night because you could play your starters as little as you did?
Well, it's a feel-good win, where everybody can go into the locker room and feel like they contributed. And, Raymond told me on the way in that the starters and the bench each scored, I think, 66 points or whatever it was, the exact same number of points. So you walk in and everybody feels good about what they contributed and from a scoring standpoint, but also defensively. And the advantage is, we've been playing Steph pretty heavy minutes this year, heavier than ever, at least since I've been here. So to have a game where you only have to play him 27 minutes is great because, there's going to be some coming up where he's going to play 38, 39, and you don't want to wear him out.
Speaking of Steph, and Steve Kerr, our guest here, of course, on 95.7 The Game, with teams focusing on him defensively so much, was last night 14 assists maybe, Coach, a preview of one of the roads forward for him if teams continue to send 2 and 3 guys at him defensively?
I just thought Steph was brilliant last night as a playmaker, as a patient game operator, recognizing what we needed to do. against Portland to be successful. It was a game where we knew if we were patient and moved the ball, we were going to get really good shots. And Steph picked his spots wisely and really did a good job of just controlling the whole game. But his passing was brilliant. They were trapping him everywhere, and he was getting the ball out cleanly and creating 4-on-3 advantages all over the floor. And, I think so much of the focus this year with Steph has been on his shooting. He went through the spell for whatever it was, 3 or 4 weeks, where he didn't shoot as well as he normally does. But what I noticed during that span was he was really running our team well. And in the absence of Draymond and Andre, Steph understands he's got to be a more traditional point guard than normal because those two guys have the ball in their hands so often for us. Steph can play off the ball, but when they're absent, Steph really needs to take control of the game and manage it and operate it. And I thought he did a great job of that last night.
How long did it take for him to sort of come to the conclusion that he needed to be a more traditional point guard given the circumstances around him? Did he take to it right away, or did it take a couple of games?
I think it took a couple of games for all of us, myself included, because when Draymond is out and then when Andre is out too, our team really changes. Those guys are, and they have been for years, the guys who sort of get us organized, handle the ball, point forwards who push the ball and kind of change the chessboard in terms of what the defense is looking at. And so you remove them from the equation, we become more traditional. But that means we have to alter our lineups and we have to figure out the right combinations. And so I think, over time, I think Draymond has missed about the last 20 games or so. All in all, we've done pretty well, but it has definitely taken some experimentation to kind of figure out the right combinations to play, and Steph, along with that, has really sensed that he's had to alter his game as well. I just think he's had a brilliant year, doing everything that he does for us. The focus is always on his shooting, but he does so much more, and I think he's been fantastic all season long.
With all the sort of twists and turns in this season for you guys, from Curry playing at an MVP rate for at least the first 20 games to waiting for Thompson to losing Green, how many teams have you coached this year?
That's a good question. Yeah, we've. It feels like most teams in the league, though, are in the same boat. There's been so much weird stuff, whether it's injuries or you look at Philly and Brooklyn and all the issues that they've had with guys sitting out and vaccine stuff and city mandates and trades, and I mean it's been a crazy year across the league. So we're not alone, but the injuries have given us. I look at the silver lining. The injuries have given us a chance to really develop Jonathan Kuminga. He wouldn't have gotten the minutes he's gotten if Draymond had been healthy the last 20 games. And so, even though we've, as you say, I've coached several different teams this year. I think it's all heading in the right direction in terms of what we're going to be in the playoffs, and that is, knock on wood, a team that is healthy and versatile, and a team with young players who are ready to compete at a really high level. So it's exciting.
Coach, we talked about Steph's playmaking last night. Klay only had 2 assists last night, but he's had a lot more assists in recent games than he used to produce. How is his role in the offense maybe a little different than it was when he was last playing along with Kevin Durant? And if you could, where are we, as far as you know, with Klay and a possible increase in his minutes here going forward?
Yeah, so I think that you just nailed it. I mean, the biggest difference in Klay is that Kevin is no longer here, and so we require more from Klay in terms of the playmaking role. When Kevin was here, he and Steph really split the ball handling duties a lot, along with Draymond, and they could play off each other. Klay played off of all those guys. But now, without Kevin and without Draymond, you're seeing the ball in Klay's hands a lot more. We're also staggering Klay and Steph so that one of them can always be on the floor. So Klay has had the ball in his hands a lot more. He's creating shots for himself and for others, and I think he's doing great. He's still at a 30-minute game limit right now, minutes restriction-wise, but over the next week or two, that's the plan is to ramp that up, and that's a good sign. We're really heading in a great direction to the point where we feel like by the time playoffs start, Klay will be able to play his full minutes load.
How would you define his full minutes load? Is it 34? Is it, not that there's a hard limit, but is it just a game-to-game guess, but around 34, 35? Or is there more, is there less? What's the rough number you're looking at?
Yeah, 34 is kind of what we map out for Klay and Steph, 34 to 36. Steph has gone over that quite a bit this year, just out of necessity. When the playoffs come, 34 to 36 becomes 36 to 39. So we're still, I guess, 6-7 weeks away from the playoffs. So as Klay continues to improve and ramp up the minutes, I think that's where we're heading. Where he's gonna be fully capable of playing a 38-minute playoff game without any problem.
Steve Kerr with us on 95.7 The Game. And, Coach, as you pointed out, we know that Portland right now, they're having a hard time putting their best foot forward. But that said, you had 8 players in double figures last night. And to me, that's always a great barometer for how well the offense is functioning. And isn't that especially true of an offense like yours that's as democratic as it is?
Yeah, the ball was really moving. I think we had 36 assists, and it was really fun to see. And in the fourth quarter, the game was in hand, and our bench came in, just did a fantastic job of finishing the game, making the right plays. I thought Juan Toscano-Anderson, Damian Lee came in, gave us great minutes. Bielitsa played well over that stretch, even though he wasn't in the main rotation last night. He came in and was ready and prepared, and that's what it takes, because these guys who are coming off the bench, when you get to the playoffs, it literally becomes a game-by-game, series-by-series equation where it might just be one game or one series where you need one guy, and another game or another series where you need another guy, and if you don't have those options off the bench, real professional guys who are talented and can contribute, but also maintain their energy and their spirit when things aren't going their way, it's really hard to win in the playoffs. So I'm really enjoying coaching this group because I feel like we've got great veteran players who understand all of that, and they are doing a good job of mentoring our young guys, and you can see the growth that's happening with Jordan Poole and Jonathan Kuminga, especially those two. And it's just fun thinking about what's around the corner.
You were talking about your rotation a second ago. As you go into the postseason, is this roster built in a way that your playoff rotation might be maybe a body or maybe even two longer than normal, or is it your job to find the 8 or 9 guys that are the rotation come the postseason? Because, as we know, rotations get shorter in the postseason.
Yeah, we've been lucky to have a lot of experience with this because of the fact that we've had great teams over the years. But you can think back to different playoff runs. I remember JaVale McGee making a huge contribution in the finals in, I want to say it was our last title run in 18. where after game one, the way Cleveland was playing us, we realized, all right, we can score over the top with JaVale. And we put him in the starting lineup after that, and he was brilliant, right? and scored and made a huge impact. I don't know that he played at all in the previous series against Houston, and so I think the way you look at it in the playoffs is you absolutely have your 8 or 9 guys who are going to play every single night, and then you have options based on your opponent and what's being presented to you out on the floor. And if you're lucky enough, like we've been over the years, because of the work that Bob and front office have done roster-wise, then you've got some pieces that you can employ during a certain series, and it might be a different guy, in the next series, and that's the beauty of having depth in the postseason.
How could Jonathan Kuminga, assuming he continues to develop along this path, which has been remarkable, how can he help you with your depth in the postseason? I know everyone wants to know about his role and how many minutes he's going to play, and obviously some of that's going to be dictated by matchups, but also by how he progresses. In a perfect world, as he continues to progress, in what ways can he give you even more depth and more options as part of your postseason rotation, should it come to that, Steve?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that JK will be in the postseason rotation. He is a unique athlete, even by NBA standards. This guy stands out. I mean, he is so explosive and powerful, and gives us a dimension that we otherwise don't have. And his growth over the last month or 6 weeks has been so dramatic. Between his recognition of what's happening on the floor, his awareness, his maturity, his work, his confidence, it's just been beautiful to watch. So everything that he does for us, the athleticism, the speed, the finishing in transition, the post up, if they're going to switch on him, he's our best guy, just throwing the ball down on the block and getting a bucket. So it's been fun to watch his growth, and he has 100% solidified his spot in the rotation.
Without getting into detail, can you see playing different teams in the postseason and having significantly different rotations? Or do you foresee, as you look at the other teams that you might play, that your rotations will stay the same, but maybe the minutes may vary a little bit here or there?
I think the way it usually pans out, Ray, is you got your 8 or 9 guys that are automatic, and then you see what the matchup is, and from there you can go for short stints with guys who might not be part of that 8 or 9 man automatic rotation. So. That's how it's always worked for us in the past. I mentioned the JaVale thing. Nick Young did that for us, made some big shots in Game 7 in Houston back in 18, I think it was. You just have to figure out what you think is going to work the best on, in each series. But your top 8 or 9 are probably going to play regardless of the matchup.
Steve, I wanted to ask you about James Wiseman, and I know everyone wants to know, when's he going to be back, and everyone wants to pin you down, and I know that you just aren't in position to do that, understand that. That said, is there maybe an ideal number of games in your mind that James would be able to play in the regular season for you to get an idea of how he might fit in to your postseason plans?
No, there's no number of games. The biggest thing is James is healthy and he's playing. He scrimmaged today. We brought our G League team up from Santa Cruz, and he got his first real extended scrimmage today, and he looked good and he's feeling good. So that's the main thing. And now it's just day to day, and we'll just see how he's doing, and we'll progress from there. The thing that I have been preaching since last year is this is a really young guy who has barely played 3 college games and I think 39 games with us last year. No summer leagues, no training camps. So he's just a young guy, and the expectations should not be too high for him this year, given how good our team is, where we are as a franchise. The exciting thing for me is, James is such a great young guy. He works so hard. He's so talented. He's going to be a really good player for us for a long time to come. And we're looking, at that, as being the next, 10, 15 years. And that's great. But for people to expect something, right now, is a little far-fetched. He's, like I said, he barely has any experience, and he's just getting back from his injury, and he's a young guy, so just give it time, and it's going to happen for him.
How likely do you think he is to play some games in the G League after he's been cleared for, I guess he is cleared for full participation?
It's all, everything is a possibility. We're literally just taking everything a day at a time because of the nature of his injury, the nature of his recovery. You guys know, he had some setbacks earlier in the season, and so we don't have the luxury of mapping this thing out and saying exactly what's going to happen.
Sure.
So we're gonna continue to ramp up his activity, and he'll take part in a lot of scrimmages and team activities, 3-on-3s and team practices, over the next couple of weeks, and we'll keep ramping it up, and we'll see where it all goes.
Steve, I know you're very busy. You don't have a lot of time off. Not sure what you did during the break, but wondering if you had a chance to see the ceremonies for the 75th anniversary team. Given your role in the NBA, you've done so many things there for so long. I'm just a fan. I got goosebumps watching some of that. Did you have any reaction to the ceremonies and how they unfolded, and Steph's big night, of course, but as they unveiled, we knew it was going to be on the team, but it was still incredible to see the players introduced and Michael the last one. What was that like for you to see that, assuming that you did get a chance to see that?
Yeah, it was amazing. I had a chance to talk to Steph about it, and he said, one of the reasons he did what he did in the All-Star game is that he was so excited about meeting all those guys and being part of that celebration of 75 years in the league and the top 75 players and everything else. So cool to see Michael and LeBron shake hands and say hello. And we haven't seen them together very often. We hear about comparisons between the two of them, but just actually seeing them together was really cool. So I think it's one of the best things the NBA does. Is it really it hangs on to its legends and really celebrates its history in such a great manner. And I thought this was a really cool All-Star game for that. Absolutely.
Before we let you go, one more. Earlier we talked to Klay's dad. We had Michael Thompson on, and Ray was kind of, hogging all the questions, and I complained to Michael Thompson that I wasn't getting the touches. Michael Thompson said, that's because you're Brad Sellers, and he said Ray is Michael Jordan. You played with Michael. I'm wondering what you thought of that comparison, sir.
Sellers, wow. Yeah. I think you're more Craig Hodges. I think you've played a bigger role in
love that
playoff game.
Yeah.
Let's go Craig Hodges instead.
But how about Ratto as MJ?
Yeah. Did you throw up in your mouth when you heard that?
I was thinking more Will Perdue, but that's just me.
Awesome.
My God, look at the time.
Awesome. Best of luck the rest of the way, Coach. We appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Steve Kerr.